Welcome back to Crunch Time, a panel discussion about your favorite topic, sports.
Drew Brees is not a top 10 quarterback in NFL history. It's simple as that.
How do you say that? Drew Brees, you cannot argue with stats.
And I know for a fact it's going to be the best team in the East. It is the Toronto Raptors because of Kawhi Leonard.
I'm going to talk about another team that I want to be a Cinderella story so bad, and that's UCF. I talked about it earlier. They're ranked 12th in the nation. They beat Auburn last year in their bowl game.
It's Crunch Time.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Crunch Time, a panel discussion about your favorite topic, sports. I'm your host, Sam Getzinger. Alongside of me, we have the all-time leader in wins on the show, the veteran, Blake Tyson, and next to him, we have a couple of young guns. In the middle, it's Joey Erickson. Hey, nice suit selection, by the way. And on the end, it's Ernie Cottier. Boys, you ready to have a good show?
I'm ready to go to double digits.
There we go. All right, boys, let's hop right into it with some NFL talk. We are 3 weeks down, heading into the fourth, and some big storylines have been developing in the early going of the season. Lamar Jackson is on fire. Patriots are still dominant. Melvin Gordon is coming back after a long hiatus. That's just to name a few. Fellas, I want to hear some bold predictions for the rest of the season. Blake, we'll start with you.
Sam, you're going to like this one. The Indianapolis Colts will win the AFC South. While we're talking about them, why are they in the AFC South? Jacoby Brissett, I think, is the real deal, Sam. You told me probably about a month or two ago that he was the best backup quarterback in the NFL. He's got his chance to debut now as a starter, full-time. And got a nice contract extension, and he's showing what he can do, and it's been fantastic so far. 646 yards, 7 touchdowns, just 1 interception. 70% completion percentage. Bill Polian's built a great defense there. It's coming along nicely. They've drafted well the past couple of years, and I think
Blake,
the rest of the division's bad.
I'm going to cut you off. We'll go over to Joey.
Well, Sam, I like the Bills in this one. They're 3-0, and Josh Allen he's kind of the real deal, I got to say. And the Bills coaching staff does a fantastic job of putting Josh Allen in successful opportunities where he can thrive. And they're fifth in rushing with 153 yards per game on the ground, and they have an identity. They have an identity which really helps them. They know what they want to do, and if they can keep doing that, and they play cold weather football, and they can keep that going, I think they're going to make the playoffs.
We'll go over to Ernie now.
I'm going to say that 3 teams out of the NFC North are going to make the playoffs this year. Whoa. And honestly, if there was another wild card, maybe there could have even been 4 of them. The Bears, the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings, obviously. But those teams nobody in the NFC North has lost to anyone outside of the NFC North. I don't know who's going to win the division between Packers, Vikings, and Bears, but the other 2 I think will both make the playoffs here. You kind of talked about the Bills. They've played trash opponents so far. Yeah, they're 3-0, but they've played 2 teams that haven't even won a game yet. And I just think that the Vikings are so strong defensively. The Bears strong defensively.
I like the Bills.
So are the Packers.
Because the Chargers are struggling right now. They're 1-2. They're going to be in the conversation of making the playoffs. So if they can beat out that team, they're 3-0. They're off to a good start. So I think the Bills have a chance to sneak in there.
We're talking AFC, the Colts, all right? They play the Raiders, Broncos, Steelers, Dolphins, Titans, Bucks, and Panthers, and the Jags twice. They're going to win all those games. That's like 9 games, and they're already 2-1.
All of them.
Well, most of them. I'm just saying.
That's been good, but they already had a great team. I thought they'd make the playoffs without luck anyway. That's not that
guys, we'll wrap it up. I do like all your points, Joey. I don't think Buffalo has the running game. I'm going to give this one to Blake because I do believe they have a winnable schedule. We'll move on. Let's keep it with the National Football League. Coming into the season, there was a lot of expectations for numerous teams around the league. For instance, there was a lot of hype around the Browns at the beginning of the season, and now the only thing we talk about is Odell's watches. The 49ers, Lions, and Bills are all undefeated. I never thought I would say that. And the Cowboys are off to a hot start. So, guys, are these teams getting too much hype, or is the hype real? Joey, go ahead.
This is going to be a really surprising take, but I'm taking the Rams. I know they're 3-0, but they have a completely different way they play now with Todd Gurley not being 100%. He is obviously, if you just give it the eye test, he is not the same running back as he is. And they have to pass the ball more. They rank 22nd in passing yards, which is not very good against secondaries in Cleveland, Carolina, and New Orleans. They are struggling to throw the ball, and I think they're going to have to rely on Goff more to win shootouts, and I don't know if they can do it.
Ernie, we'll go over to you.
I mean, the Rams have beaten some quality opponents. The team I'm actually going to say, which I know you're going to hate, Joey, is the Dallas Cowboys. They have beaten 3 teams. They're 3-0. Congratulations. You've beaten 2 teams that haven't won a game yet. You beat the Giants, who barely just won their first game of the season against a bad Buccaneers team who is also winless. These Cowboys team, it's not a bad team. I think they'll still make the playoffs, but I think they're going to get tested this Sunday against the Saints. Without Drew Brees, I still think the Saints are going to beat them. Bridgewater has a big game. Cowboys get a little bit humbled this Sunday.
Blake, what do you have?
I mean, I agree with Ernie. The Cowboys, I think, are overrated. They're one of the teams I had down here. But I've also got the Houston Texans sticking in the AFC South. I've already talked about how I like the Colts. I think they're good. But I think the Texans have gotten a lot of credit for playing a close game with the Saints. And I personally, going into this year, thought the Saints were a little bit overrated. That running game is suspect at best. Carlos Hyde will get exposed for a mediocre running back eventually. Deshaun Watson's probably going to get hurt because that offensive line is horrible. The defense is in the bottom third of the league. I don't see it working out for them in the long run. I think they're a very overrated team coming into this year. I saw some people picking them to win the Super Bowl. I don't.
They're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to make the playoffs. Though.
I wouldn't say that.
That
Watson's
division
a
is
great
very hurt.
quarterback.
Watson is a magician, so I think he's going to help them get to the playoffs, mainly because their division is not that great.
And you
That's
talked about
why
a
their
shootout with
division's-
the Saints. The Saints
Yeah.
are a great football
And when
team.
you talk about the
like
Cowboys,
I said, personally, I think
it's
the
just-
Saints were due for a little bit of regression this year, but I think they're just getting too much credit for a game that they lost to the Saints, a game that they blew a lead in.
And Teddy
All right,
Table's-
guys, let's cut you off here. I'm going to give this point to Joey. I do believe Todd Gurley, not who he used to be. Now that we've discussed teams who may or may not be overrated, let's flip the switch and talk about teams who are performing above expectation. Blake, as you mentioned, the Colts are going into Week 3 with a winning record after the mind-blowing offseason with Andrew Luck's retirement. Lamar Jackson has proved he has the ability to be the best quarterback and running back in the league. Now, Ernie, what team is surprising you so far this year?
You just talked about it, Sam. The Baltimore Ravens, and of course you got to be talking about Lamar Jackson with that. He can run, he can throw. Everyone knew he could run going into this season, which obviously he's leading all quarterbacks in rushing yards through 3 weeks, but he's also second in passing yards, only behind the magician Patrick Mahomes. Okay, this Ravens team I thought was good last year. They made the playoffs, but I thought they'd stay about the same. I think, honestly, they could be that third seed in the AFC. I don't think they're taking out the Patriots. They had a close game against the Chiefs. I don't think they're taking either
Blake,
the first
we'll go
or
over to
second,
you.
but they can get the third.
I don't think the Ravens are necessarily underrated maybe 3 weeks ago, but we're in Week 3 now. What team doesn't get talked about at all? I mean, I want to double down on the Colts, but I'll leave that for somebody else if they want to. I'm going to stick with the Detroit Lions. They're 11th in total in scoring defense, and the reports are that this team's finally buying into Matt Patricia's system. So I think that Matt Patricia, I don't know if he's bringing the Patriot way to Detroit, but I mean, we might have a new thing going on in Detroit. I mean, they're 2-0-1. Yeah, they've had
Blake,
some
I'm going
pretty
to cut
close
you off
games,
here.
but
Joey, what do you have?
underrated.
I'm going with the 49ers. San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan has got something going there in Cali. I mean, they're 3-0, and let me remind you, they did not win a single game on the road last year. A single game. And they started off their season with 2 road games. Yes, granted, not the best opponents, but they won both of those games. And they total 5th in total yards with 421 and scoring in 32 points per game. They do a fantastic job. Kyle Shanahan's got Jimmy Garoppolo and that fantastic tight end Greg Kittle doing something.
But they turned the ball over 5 times against
Yeah,
the Steelers.
they do
And
make
they
a lot of
still
mistakes.
won.
They make
because
a lot
the
of
Steelers
mistakes.
are that bad. You do that against a good team, and they're going to
Yeah,
expose
I'll
you.
give you that.
Ernie, if they
49ers
do
are
that
young.
against your Packers,
They're getting
Exactly.
destroyed against
Yeah.
the Packers. But I have to say, the Lions are in the toughest division in all of football.
Okay.
They're not
But
escaping
you
the
just-
Bears, Vikings,
2 takes
and
ago,
Packers.
you said
yeah,
that
I
three
said
teams could
3
make it. You
teams.
included
I
that.
said
Oh,
3 teams.
teams
I
and
said
the
they're not picking the
Cardinals.
Bears or
We're going to the
Vikings
first
though,
game.
or the Packers. They're going to be that
okay,
fourth
but
place
they're
team.
underrated. They're
still-
2-1, and we're not talking
All right,
about
guys,
them.
I love the arguments. I'm going to give this point over to Ernie. I think Baltimore's the real deal, especially after they handled their own business with Kansas City. That'll do it for the first segment. Let's take a look at the scores so far. Blake, Joey, and Ernie both have 1. Coming up after the break, we'll talk about Jim Harbaugh, the Big Ten, and also some young QBs in the NFL. Keep it here on Crunch Time. Welcome back into Crunch Time, and before we hop back into the sports talk, let's recap the scores again. Blake sitting with 1 point, Joey also with 1 point, and Ernie has 1 as well. All right, guys, let's transition from the NFL over to college football, and one of the biggest names in college football, Jim Harbaugh, may not be the savior the Wolverines were looking for. Going in this time with Michigan, he said he would turn the culture around, and 4 years later, he hasn't beaten Ohio State, probably won't this year. They just got blown out by the Badgers, and he hasn't won a Big Ten title yet. Blake, we'll start with you. Is this still a feeling out process, or is a replacement needed?
I don't think a replacement's needed. You said he hasn't changed the culture. Are you kidding me? He went 29-21 at Stanford, which wasn't a good record, good record overall. He had a 10-win year, and that was with Andrew Luck. Before Michigan had him, they had Brady Hoke, who, by the way, was not good. Harbaugh's won 10 games or more in 3 out of 4 years. In the last, let me take a look here. in the last, talking about like Ohio State not beating Ohio State, they beat Ohio State 3 times in this past century, in the 2000s. I mean, and once in the last 15 meetings. This isn't a Jim Harbaugh thing.
Blake,
It's just
we'll move on
Michigan's
over to
not
Joey.
that good.
Well, I'm kind of on the same boat there. They averaged 6.5 wins before Harbaugh got there, and now they're averaging around 10, like he mentioned. I mean, yeah, they're not winning the big games, but I think he did change the culture. I mean, it's more winning, yeah, but Michigan was never really a relevant football team, maybe top 5 every year. It's not surprising. Yeah, they haven't won the big game. I mean, he might not win the Big Ten, but that's going to be tough to do. Michigan, it's a cold weather place. Not a lot of football players. Recruiting's tough. Don't want to go to Michigan to play football.
Joey, good points. We'll go to Ernie now.
I think he has changed the culture, but he hasn't changed it the way that people expected him to. He was nearly a Super Bowl champion with the 49ers after just being there for a couple years, and now it's every single year. It's, Michigan and Ohio State. Will this be the year he finally takes them? Nope. Doesn't happen. Last week got blown out by a Badgers team who is very good, by the way, but still got blown out. This was the year for him to try and take over the Big Ten. Urban Meyer finally out of his way, and he didn't do it. He's not going to be able to do it. The Ohio State is going to cream them. Michigan's already dropped to 20 in the rankings. They're going to go further down.
I just don't think you can put it all on Harbaugh either. I mean, he gave the reins to the offense to James Gaddis, and that offense is clueless. They have no idea what their plan is.
The team has gotten better, but you have promises of making the playoffs. You have promise of winning the Big Ten.
Where are these promises being set?
Michigan in the top 5 relevant.
Michigan in the last decade has 4 10-plus win seasons. Harbaugh has 3 of them.
But he is 1-9 against top 10 opponents in the last 4 years.
Yeah, because Michigan's
Guys, I'm going to cut
overrated.
you off here. A lot of great arguments. I'm going to give this point over to Ernie once again. I don't think Jim Harbaugh is the guy that they need. As we stay inside the Big Ten, we have a lot of teams who believe they have a chance of contending for the Big Ten championship. Wisconsin left an early mark with their win against Michigan. Top-ranked Ohio State will look to get back to the championship game without Dwayne Haskins. Penn State and Iowa are both inside the top 20, and both Michigan teams are always a threat in the conference. So, guys, which Big Ten teams do you think will make it out of the conference and contend for the Big Ten title? Joey, what do you think?
Well, I'm going with Michigan State, as you said, number 25 there at 3-1. They got a pretty good football team now. I mean, they went down to Arizona State away, and they barely won. They barely lost. Sorry, they barely lost 10-7, but they played a great football game. Elijah Collins has 363 yards on the ground so far this year. They got a good team. I think they can surprise some teams because Ohio State's coming to them in a couple weeks. Potential upset there.
I think it's got to be, it's a race between Wisconsin and Ohio State. Iowa's very good. I think the Michigan teams are both choke artists. They'll do well. They're always ranked, but when do either one of them ever finish in the top 10, 5 range in the nation? Never. It's Wisconsin and Ohio State. Wisconsin's better than they've been in a while, and part of that is having a new quarterback in their system. He's so much better than what they've had. Jack Cohn is so much better than Hornibrook, who will just cost Wisconsin big games left and right. Plus, they have Jonathan Taylor, who is, in my opinion, top 3 candidate for a Heisman Trophy. The man can just flat out run. He had 146 rushing yards against Michigan in the first quarter. That's right, not in the first half, not in a game. That would be a great game. In the first quarter, behind a strong offensive line, and the man can just flat out run when he gets the opportunity. Got an open field and had an over 70-yard touchdown in the last game.
Blake, we'll go over to you. I want to remind you guys, this is the Big Crunch. We're at 2 points.
Oh, I'm well aware. Before I get into my point, Ernie, what did you say about Alex Hornibrook? Because he plays for Florida State. He doesn't play for Wisconsin.
He used to play for Wisconsin.
Okay.
I'm saying their new quarterback is an improvement.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I just want to make sure I heard you right because I was about to say, if we're talking about
Easy there,
Hornibrook, I mean, you're from Wisconsin. I expect
saying
better
Jack
out
Cohn,
of you.
he's the better quarterback now.
All right. Well, I think it's going to be Ohio State and Wisconsin. I think it's Ohio State's torched everybody that they played. They have elite players on all sides of the ball. This is still an Urban Meyer recruited team. I mean, yeah, the coaching staff has changed, but these are all players that he's recruited. And we all know how good they are. They're this good every year almost. And if, they're rarely not in the Big Ten championship game, and it's going to be Wisconsin on the other side. Granted, I think they beat an overrated Michigan team, and I don't think they stand a chance against Ohio State when they play in the Big Ten championship. And I think I don't like Iowa. They barely beat Iowa State. Granted, it's a rivalry game, but it's Ohio State and Wisconsin, and everybody else is like Ernie said. I mean, he kind of took the words out of my mouth for everything I was going to say. Both Michigan teams are overrated, and they almost are every year.
Well, guys, let me ask you this. You're missing out a couple of names here. The Gophers are undefeated. Purdue is still hanging around. Northwestern, Illinois. Any of those bottom dweller teams have a chance to make it through?
No, because you just call them bottom dwellers for a reason.
I don't like the Gophers because they're going into Purdue, and they're like favorites, but I don't see them getting out there with
They
a win.
barely beat
The Gophers are
bad
overrated.
teams.
They beat 3 bad teams, all in close matchups. Congratulations, you're 3-0, but this just isn't the
Like,
year
you
for the
need
Gophers.
you
I'm
need
sorry.
overtime to beat
It's not gonna
Fresno
They
State.
can't hold this against these type of teams. Like you said, overtime against Fresno State. And I think Ohio State just has great team, great defensively, especially. Justin Fields is going to be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, Justin, that
Underrated
transfer, getting Justin Fields and him being eligible to play right away, I mean, changed everything for Ohio State. We
All
might be
right,
having
guys,
a totally
I'm gonna
different
cut you guys
discussion.
off here. I'm going to give the big crunch over to Blake. I do think Ohio State probably one of the best teams in the Big Ten. Let's move back over to the NFL. There have already been major impacts made by young quarterbacks in the league. 6th overall pick, Daniel Jones led the Giants to a comeback win in Week 3. Josh Allen, Sam Darnold were both first-round picks in last year's draft. Lamar Jackson might be the most impressive quarterback so far this season. And let's not forget about both Baker Mayfield and this year's first overall pick, Kyler Murray. So, guys, which young QB are you buying to reach their potential? Ernie, what do you got?
I mean, I might be repeating myself here, but Lamar Jackson again. He is a Michael Vick type of player who might be able to pass better than Vick did. Granted, Vick had that electrifying speed where he was just a cheat code on Madden. I hated playing against my older brothers. They always took him. It was worse being player 2. But Lamar Jackson has the potential to be that type of player who can just air it out. He can run. He has a great running game alongside him. The Ravens defense hasn't played great yet. Their secondary has been a little banged up, but I think that secondary is going to be great for him. I think he's going to lead them, like I said, great playoff position.
Blake,
and he could
who
be
do
a
you
great
think?
quarterback for years.
Ernie likes Lamar Jackson because he can air it out and can run, and guess what? So can Josh Allen. He has an absolute can of an arm. They're 3-0. Ernie, you said, I believe it was you that said you liked the Bills, or was it? I think
Joey.
both
That
of you
was
may
Joey.
have said
Joey
it.
liked the Bills.
But the
Are
point
you
is,
listening to
he's sorry, I don't know. I try. But he's got to refine his accuracy, but he can throw the football anywhere on the field, any distance. I mean, it's incredible. And guess what? He only has 60 less rushing yards so far, or last year rather, had 60 less rushing yards than Lamar Jackson, and he had 50 less carries.
Blake, I'm going to cut you off. We'll go over to
Yeah,
Joey.
I'm not going to take any of those names. I'm going with Kyle Allen. He is considered a young quarterback in the NFL. He doesn't have very much experience. He has played fantastic. Cam Newton couldn't win. Kyle Allen has won his last 2 starts with the Carolina Panthers through 4
has 2
touchdowns.
starts
Yes,
total.
against Arizona, but he uses their weapons very well. Christian McCaffrey's a good player. Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Cam Newton. There's all this talk about he doesn't have weapons, but he has them. And Kyle Allen obviously can use them right and win games. And I think it's going to be a way for the Carolina Panthers to scapegoat from Cam.
It's too small of a sample size
Yeah.
to be able to say he's going to be a great young quarterback.
There's a small sample size of Lamar Jackson too.
yeah, but he started
He's
off
got like
great.
10 more games than Kyle Allen
Okay,
does. Josh Allen
we're talking
does
about
too.
young QBs here. It doesn't matter.
We're not saying young as in they played a total
okay, but
of
here's the thing:
80 minutes on an NFL
Cam Newton
field.
comes back, are the Carolina Panthers really going to bite that bullet
What
and,
if Kyle
and,
Allen
and
wins?
start
What if
Kyle
Kyle
Allen?
Allen wins 6 to 7 to 8
Guys,
games?
let's wrap
Then they're
this
still
up.
gonna have
Let's
their
wrap this
former
up, guys.
MVP
Hey, let's
Cam
quiet
Newton.
down over here, huh? Joey, I'm going to give you the point. I do believe Kyle Allen, he may be the real deal. That'll do it for this segment. Let's take a look at the scores here. Blake has 3, Joey has 2, and Ernie also has 2. Coming up after the break, we'll talk some NHL hockey, the Metropolitan Division and the Central Division, coming up on Crunch Time. Welcome back into Crunch Time, and guys, we've had enough football talk for today, so let's go over to the ice as the NHL season opener looms in the air. I want to first touch on the Metropolitan Division as there's a good balance of young, solid teams and veteran, battle-tested teams. The Canes are coming off a playoff run. New Jersey has a lot of hype around them. The Caps could be a big threat. Blake, we'll start with you again. How do you see the Metro shaking up this year?
Well, the usual suspects in the Capitals and Penguins are going to make the playoffs, or at the very least they should, unless something catastrophic happens to Ovechkin, Crosby, or Malkin. The Hurricanes, I think they need to keep riding this kind of weird wave that they're on, like the storm surge wave, I guess, is what, if you will. But they still have poor goaltending, and they've got a great top 4 in the defense and all around. But losing a guy like Justin Williams as the veteran presence concerns me. I think the Islanders by the way, Islanders just broke ground on a new stadium today in New York, staying in New York on Long Island. But Ken Semyon and Varlamov coming
Blake,
and doing
I'm
what
gonna
Robin
cut you
Leonard
off.
did
We'll
last
move
year.
over to Joey now.
Yeah, I'm just stay away from the Caps and Pens because they're just going to make it. I think Philadelphia is going to surprise a lot of people.
Yep.
They had a brutal start to the season last year, and that's because they couldn't figure out their goaltender situation. But this new Corey Hart kid is fantastic. There's a stereotype in the NHL of not playing young goalies. That's why he didn't get in quicker. But as soon as he got away in the midpoint of the season, they went on an 8-game winning streak, and they clawed their way above 500. They finished 37-37, but they got a great young core there with the Frost
Ernie,
and
what do you
Konecki.
think?
So I think they got
I mean, the question isn't bold predictions here. I think, yeah, those are a couple things that could shake up. I think the Capitals are going to win the division again. They've won it
Well, it's
5
obvious
straight
choice.
years. Well, this was what the question was. Who's going to win it? Not who's your bold prediction.
It was
We did
how
that
are
for the
things going to
NFL.
shake out?
Excuse me, my turn to talk. So the Capitals are going to win the division again. It's their 5th straight year doing it. They got upset, in the early playoffs by the Canes, like you said last year. But they're tested. They're true. They know what they're doing. They've got Ovechkin. They've got Nicholas Backstrom, who I think is an absolutely phenomenal player here, who is going to help them once again win this title, the division.
But that's it. Who else makes the playoffs in the division? I mean, that's the thing. We all know them and the Penguins are probably making the playoffs.
They're almost
I feel like it's
shoo-ins.
almost pointless talking about it. I like the Flyers. They have this weird thing where they make the playoffs every other year. They might get in. Watch out for the New Jersey Devils, #1 pick Jack Hughes. They made the playoffs 2 years ago. Former MVP Taylor Hall in the building there. And if Corey Schneider can have a bounce back of anything that resembled what they had 2 years ago, I think they could sneak in.
All right, guys, we're going to cut you off. I'm going to give this point over to Joey. Don't sleep on Philadelphia, that's for sure. Now let's move over to the Central Division, shall we? This division is very interesting. It features the defending champs in the St. Louis Blues, but they didn't even win the Central last year. The Preds did. Winnipeg will be without Dustin Byfuglien for a little while, and the Wild, they're just doing wild things. Joey, what are your thoughts on the Central?
Well, I'm going Homer, obviously, on this one. I'm taking the Stars. I think they had the most underrated offseason, picking up Pavelski and Perry. Pavelski is an unreal power play guy. He is fantastic on the power play. They were ranked 11th last year. They can only go up from there. And Rope Hintz, who had a tear second half and was huge in the playoffs for the Stars and beating the Preds, was fantastic, and he's going to be a second-line center. And then Ben Bishop, a top 3 goalie. He's a top 3 goalie in the league. When he plays and healthy, which hopefully if he can stay healthy, I think they have a very great shot to win this division.
Ernie, what do you think?
I think it's going to be the Blues. They're the defending champs. Like you said, they didn't win the division last year, but they've got such a good team. When you're defending champ, you kind of have that little bit of extra air about you. You know, you're walking high here. And like many teams in the Central, the Blues are anchored by their defense. You look at Alex Pietrangelo. Sorry, I'm not good at pronouncing all these guys' names. Pietrangelo. Close enough.
The captain, no big deal.
Either way, I think they're going to win the division. They didn't last year, like you said, but they're riding high after winning the chip. They're going to be able to come back
Ernie,
as
you go
a strong
practice your
force again.
pronunciations. Blake, what do you have?
I'll give me the Nashville Predators to win the division. Let me put this out there. I think that this division can shake up in any which way possible.
I respect that.
So I'm just throwing this out there. I probably would have gone with the Blues, but I'll give you something else. If Pecorine doesn't show age, or if UC Saros can be a formidable backup, I think they'll be okay. If Matt Duchene can work out in the 4th place he's been in, then maybe they'll be okay. But they have a really good blue line, and they have a second line of Mikhail Granlund, Forsberg, and Duchene all in that second line. I mean, for a second line, that's pretty dang good, and they've got a really good top 4. Trading away PK Subban might hurt the power play a little bit, but I like them. But like I said, this division can shake out any which way, and Winnipeg's a mess.
Well, they
Bufflin's
can't
gone.
sign Laine
Kyle
right now.
Connor, Laine
Laine
gone.
go play in
That
Finland.
Neil
So they can figure
Pionk
it
is
out.
on your top defensive pair.
I mean,
what
you
are you
mentioned it
doing,
though at the
Winnipeg?
beginning.
What
You
is?
said you would have taken the Blues. I think the Blues are going to win Nashville.
Yeah, but-
like you said, they're an interesting team. But
Yes, but okay, with the Blues,
I don't know how
my-
Binnington's going to shake out in a full
Yes,
season.
Binnington
as well.
needs to
Binnington-
repeat, and
yeah,
Stanley
he's
Cup
got-
All right,
hangover is a
guys,
real
I'm
thing.
going to cut you off. I'm going to give this point over to Joey. Dallas made a lot of key acquisitions at the end of the year. So, with that being said, coming up after the break, we'll reveal the winner of this week's Crunch Time. Back into Crunch Time, and the panel got a little shorter. This week's winner is Joey Erickson. Let's take he wrapped up with 4 points. Blake had 3. Ernie had 2. Now, Joey, I'm going to give you a minute to talk about whatever you
Well,
want.
first of all, great minds think alike. I mean,
Absolutely.
don't we look pretty good? We look fantastic. But I'm going to talk about my Cowboys. I'm going to go Homer again here on the last one. Dak Prescott is looking pretty good. Ascending star in this league. I think he might finish top 3 in the MVP conversation. A little bold prediction, a little throwing that back to the segment. I like them this year. Teddy Two Gloves is going to give them fits, though.
You think so?
I like Teddy Two Gloves this Sunday. It's going to be the first primetime game for the Cowboys because, well, they haven't played
You
anybody
think
yet.
Teddy Two Gloves is going to give the Cowboys a hard time?
Yeah, yes, I do. In New Orleans? He's a former Minnesota Viking.
Yeah,
You know that.
okay, well, that makes a big difference.
Well, I'm going with the Cowboys. They're going to have a good year here. I think they'll finish around 10, 11 wins. And,
They're going to make the Super Bowl?
well, yeah, they're
They're
going to
make
the Super Bowl, baby.
Who are they
I
going to
wouldn't
go up against?
probably Tom Brady, and they're going to get smoked, but it's okay. It's whatever. Go Cowboys, baby. We're taking it this year. This is our year because, you know, it has to be. It has to be. Skip Bayless is on the Cowboys train. It's got to be.
So you think everything with the Ezekiel Elliott, that's just going to blow over?
Oh, yeah, that was no big deal. We don't
big
even
deal?
need Zeke. Give me Tony Pollard every day of the week. He just rushed for 100 yards. I don't care if it's the Dolphins.
I was going to ask you, Tony Pollard, you really liked it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll wrap it up there. Joey Erickson with the win. You've been watching Crunch Time. We'll be back here same place, same time next week.